Welcome on in, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of Let's Go Racing with David Starr. Tyler Jones here with you. So glad to have you with us for episode number 5. Today, we are going to focus on David's time in the NASCAR Cup Series and NASCAR Xfinity Series, where he is currently racing. We'll dive into that discussion and more coming up in just a bit. Also, we will have the latest NASCAR news and notes and everyone's favorite segment, Ask David, coming up at the end of the show. The one and only David Starr with us right now. David, hope you had a good Christmas, my friend. What's going on?
Man, how you guys doing, man? I'm doing great, and Christmas was beautiful, like it always is. And even during the pandemic, and with COVID, it was still a great Christmas for myself and my family. And I hope it was for all our listeners and you guys as well.
Dominic, hope you're doing well, man. Dominic Oregon of the RacingExperts.com. Tell us about your Christmas holiday, brother.
Hey, thanks, Tyler. Thanks, Dave. Wow, 5 shows in, right? Very amazing. It's just flying so fast. But, yeah, Christmas was awesome. We got to spend a lot of good time with my mom and dad, my brother Martin, who you all met last week. We got to spend that with my grandparents and my mom's sister family. So we really had we always do some stuff on Christmas Eve. So we got to meet for dinner, and then we got to continue it on to Christmas Day. So despite everything that's been going on this year, I think for us it was just a really big year to look back, and we're very thankful for all the blessings that God has blessed on us.
That's fantastic, Dominic. Glad you had a great Christmas as well as with you, David. I certainly did myself. Enjoyed being with the family back home in Tulsa, and now I'm back to Kansas packing up stuff before I head out to Omaha later this week. So that is
so Tyler, you got a big week ahead of you, man.
Oh my God.
Very exciting.
Yeah, very exciting. A crazy week, but enough about me. Let's focus on the star, David Starr. And,
well, hey, Tyler, let's man, I want to during talk about Christmas a little bit more. Man, it was great. Christmas Eve, man, I had my mom and dad and my brother and uncle and aunts, and they all showed up at my house, and we had a little Christmas Eve Christmas together, which it was a tradition we do. And my sister was on her way, and she had all our kids tested. She just, with my mom and dad coming up to Dallas from Houston, Texas, we wanted to make sure that the older ones, that everybody was tested and clear. And so my sister had tested her kids, and little Chase, who was 9 or 10, the results came back, he was positive. So that kind of threw us for a little bit of a loop right there before everybody came over. But unfortunately, my sister and her kids weren't able to show up for Christmas Eve to have Christmas with us, but her husband and everybody else did. And unfortunately, that happens. And again, it was good to know that, because my parents and my aunt, who are a little bit older, were in town, and obviously with y'all's parents and all the older people, and anybody, ourselves, nobody wants to get COVID if you can help it.
Right.
So anyway, that was kind of crazy, but man, for me, waking up Christmas morning was always special. Santa Claus showed up, and golly, man, he didn't disappoint. Looked like the elves were working. They were busy up there at the North Pole, and putting together toys and stuff. But man, what a beautiful Christmas it was for my family, and I know it was for everybody and you guys too. So a lot of fun when you got little ones, when Santa shows up.
Oh yeah.
Well, imagine, yes.
That's fantastic. I know what you mean, David. My mom and sister ended up testing positive, and my uncle did too. So we didn't get to have a big family gathering of sorts like we normally would. But nonetheless, this time still makes you remember the important things of thankful to have family and to enjoy the holidays when you can with one another. And Dominic, I know you had a good time as well there in New Mexico. Did you guys get a white Christmas? I know you had some snow recently too.
We didn't get a white Christmas, but I believe some of the northern parts of the state ended up. We're actually going to be getting snow later this week, so it's a few days late, but we'll have like a white New Year's Eve and New Year's Day.
I like it. That's cool.
That's cool. They even called for a little snow here in Dallas, Texas. So that's kind of unique. Doesn't happen often, but anyway, it's supposed to come tomorrow or the next day. So we'll see what happens.
Well, David, today we want to focus on your time in the Xfinity and the Cup Series, where you've made a number of starts. Currently, right now, you've been racing most recently in the Xfinity Series. Let's start there. The NASCAR Xfinity Series, I know it's been known by about 100 different names, from the Xfinity Series nationwide, Busch Grand National, whatever you want to call it. But the racing has been really good over the years. We've seen some big changes to this series of limiting the Cup drivers, of how many races they can be a part of, and adding the playoff element, the dash for cash, all these different things. Just tell us first off about the Xfinity Series. What has it meant to you, and what do you think of the state of the series right now after all the changes it's been through all these years?
Man, the Busch Series, everybody, Busch Series, obviously it's the Xfinity Series, but, a lot of people know it as the Busch Series. It was the Busch Grand National Series for so long. But, man, our Xfinity Series is just a wonderful series. When I first made it into NASCAR years ago, in the truck series, you were just, people would always say, hey, why trucks? Why the truck series? And I said, well, when I had my opportunity to drive myself into NASCAR, that was the opportunity I had, you know what I mean? And the truck series really opened up the door for a lot of drivers that had the ability and the talent and got the opportunity, but once I got into NASCAR and established myself as a true racer in the truck series, I wanted more than that, even though I was just so thankful and so blessed and so proud of to be racing in NASCAR and be making a living at it. It was, your ultimate dream as a kid is to, race in the NASCAR Cup Series, Winston Cup, Sprint Cup, whatever you want to call it. It's been through changes as well. So, racing trucks and winning races and being a top guy for a long time, opportunities would come, and looking back on it, Jay Robinson gave me some opportunities to run in the Xfinity Series, Busch Series back then. Had opportunities with Wayne Day from the Nashville, Tennessee area. And, there were opportunities that came my way, and I took advantage of some of them because I wanted to get my feet wet in the cars, you know what I mean? I mean, we all, when you talk about stock car racing, you want to race stock cars, but so there was opportunities that came my way. I took advantage of some of them. Some of them I should have took advantage of and should have took, but I didn't. That would have put me full time in that series then. But I was chasing a championship in the truck series, and I at the time I didn't think I was worthy, or my mindset at the time was win a championship, prove yourself in the truck series, and then you graduate into the next series, which would have been the Xfinity Series. But I have always competed, 2, 3, 4 races in the Busch Series over the years. And, I don't remember what year it was back 2000, 13, 14, 15, finally made the jump to go full time in the Xfinity Series. But, as all of us racers, for the racers that are listening to us, and as a racer, we like to compete, you know what I mean? We want to compete. We want to be in great equipment. We want to work with great engineers and great crew chiefs, but we want to win and compete. So I didn't matter if I was racing trucks or the Busch Series or the Xfinity Series or even the Cup Series, just to be able to race at that level, make a living at it was awesome, you know what I mean? And, I don't remember, I think I stayed in the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series for 16 years. Might have been 17, but man, when I finally made that jump full time into the Xfinity Series, man, I never really looked back to the truck series because I don't know, I just appreciated it, racing the cars. The competition was the same. I don't care what series you're racing NASCAR. The competition is tough, and every competitor racing in the NASCAR Truck Series or the Xfinity Series or the Cup Series, you know, to earn your way there, usually you're a champion, not just one time, but 2 or 3 times, wherever, you know, from whatever part of the country you're from. But man, I love truck racing. I'm really love the Xfinity Series, and I just love NASCAR. It's just a very competitive, but that Busch Series, Xfinity Series, very competitive, and you see these kids or people winning these championships in the Xfinity Series, and they become superstars in the Cup Series. You know, so I really still think that the Truck Series and the Xfinity Series is like a stepping stone getting to the Cup Series, the ultimate, you know, everybody's ultimate goal. You know what I'm saying?
Well, and like you're absolutely right there. Whatever you want to call it, right? The Nationwide Series, the Busch Series. Let's go back to 2014. You were running some races part-time in that series, and you never want to say, oh, one race kind of defines somebody, but I think a breakout race for you that year was the Talladega race, running for Mark Smith in the 44 car. You were leading laps within 10 laps to go and finished in the top 10. Take us back to that day, the Whataburger-sponsored 44 car. How important was that race for you and being able to get more races that year and eventually go full-time with that team?
Well, you know, Mark Smith of TriStar Motorsports, you know, we've been buddies for a long time. You know, Mark owned Pro Motors, and, you know, Mark's motors have won a lot of races in NASCAR, and I don't care if it was the Xfinity Series or the Truck Series, even the Cup Series. You know, Mark was building great engines, and, you know, just thinking back, Ron Hornaday won a championship, you know, and had Mark Smith motors under the hood of that team. So, you know, Mark was always a great friend, and we respected each other. And finally, we were talking one day in the garage. He said, man, you ought to come over and drive a, you know, Xfinity race for me. I said, man, I'd love to. And, man, we went over there, and, you know, he had 2 or 3 different drivers at the time. He had a big team, and Mike Bliss was, you know, one of the guys that I've raced in the Truck Series for a long time. And Mike was over there driving for Mark Smith on the Xfinity side and running good, running really well. And I think Eric McClure was also another driver, Blake Cook. And when Mark gave me the invitation to come over, run a couple races, you know, man, his cars were fast. And, man, we ran good for the equipment and the budget that we were working on at the time, you know. And I remember talking to Mark, you know, I think we finished, I don't know, 15th, 16th, 14th, and ran really well in a race. And, you know, Mark said, you ought to consider, you know, coming over here racing full time with me. He said, think with, you know, all the partners you have currently and us working together, we could probably build a pretty good team together, you know. And at the time, Toyota really helped us a whole lot. And Mark would say, you know, when you're driving my cars, you know, we feel like Toyota brings more knowledge and more information to us when you're in one of my cars, you know. But you know, most people, I don't know if most people know this, but, you know, when I was driving for TriStar, we wasn't a caliper team that was a winning team. I would say we were probably a 13th to 20th place team every week, you know, and with the budget we had to work on. But, you know, when we went to Daytona and we went to Talladega, you know, that's the great equalizer. You know, I always say, you know, Bristol, Martinsville, racetracks where you have to use the brakes, do a little finesse. You know, you got to drive the car. You know, it kind of puts it in the driver's seat per se. And especially when you go to Daytona and Talladega, it's the great equalizer. So, you know, every time I would drive one of Mark's cars at a super speedway, whether it be Daytona or Talladega, we always really was in the mix right there at the end of having a shot at winning the race, you know, with a team that usually didn't have a shot. And so, man, that day was special. You know, I remember running these super speedway races in one of Mark's cars, and I always remember trying to make sure, you know, that particular day, I think I had Joey Logano, you know, if I could get one of those powerhouse teams, a Penske team or a team that had Hendrick power underneath the hood or an RCR car behind me, you know what I mean? I could keep them behind me if I worked it just right, and they would bump draft you or push you. And, man, I think that particular race, I think it was Casey Kane. We worked well together that race. And and he did a lot of pushing, and man, I kept him behind us, and we ran up front and almost had a shot at winning the race. Y'all know how it is when it comes down the last 2 or 3 laps of Daytona and Talladega. It's every man for itself, you know, and you're blocking and trying to do the right thing. And but man, it was just driving for Mark on those super speedways. We had a shot 3 or 4, maybe 5 times of winning, and that's all you can ask for. You know what I mean, for a team that's under budget like we were. But man, I remember and cherish those moments like they were yesterday, because you know, when you work on the budgets that we obviously work on, doesn't give you an opportunity week in and week out to have the type of equipment or the people, or you have to work within the budget that you have. And unfortunately, you know, our budgets over the years hasn't been, you know, 10 or 8 or $7 million. It's been a lot less, but I think driving for TriStar and running those super speedway races really, you know, we felt good about when the race ended and where we ended at, because they knew we were there, and we almost won several of them. You know, it was pretty cool.
David Starr joining us here on Let's Go Racing with David Starr. Tyler Jones alongside Dominic Aragon, as we're talking about David's days in the NASCAR Xfinity Series, which is where he's currently racing right now. David, you've made over 200 starts in your 15 seasons in the Xfinity Series. And one of the things I noticed from just talking to you, doing interviews when you'd come to Kansas Speedway this past year and such, was just the respect level you have and admiration for these young guys like the, you know, Austin Cindricks or Chase Briscoes of the world. Just that, you know, the respect level that's there. Is that something that you look at with these guys, is that, you know, just an admiration of sorts that, you know, wow, this guy, can you tell from your vantage point the guys that are going to be elite, that are going to be stars and such? Is there that respect level go both ways? Do you get to, you know, exchange notes or exchange words, have some advice for those young guys at times? What's it like just being around some of these young guys and seeing them move up?
Man, there's so much talent, you know, not only in the truck series, but the Xfinity Series. And you mentioned their names: Noah Gragson, Ross Chastain. I mean, you know, just on and on and on. You know, Ryan C. You just go on and on and on. These guys are really good, and they have a great car control. You know, and it just comes down to how their car is handling and the situation they put themselves in towards the end of the race. But you know, the respect thing, you know, when they come up to you and they ask you questions about, you know, how your car drives later on when you lose fuel loads and when your tires wear out, you know, during practice and after practice and maybe before qualifying, some of these guys are winning these races when they walk up to you and ask you questions about, you know, current times or how my car is doing, or ask me advice on things. You know, it's pretty cool, you know, because you know, they said, man, we used to watch you, you know, you're always one of those top dogs in the truck series. We watched you for a long time, you know, and before we even made it to NASCAR, and now that they're there, and now that they've been fortunate enough to be driving for, you know, for Richard Childress or Roger Penske or, you know, Jack Roush, you know, it's kind of cool to have that respect there. But I watch them race on the racetrack. I race them hard. I race them with respect. You know, everybody, you know, it's like we all have jobs to do, and our job is to beat and bang and to get everything out of the equipment we have, you know. And, you know, if I got a 20th place car, I mean, I'm going to try to get 16th. You know, that's just what's built inside of us. But, you know, the guys that are racing these cars that can win these races, you know, when they're, you know, if they lap you, you know, I'm going to make sure I give them plenty of room. And you know, I know when they're coming around to lap me, my spotter's telling me, hey, you know, the leaders are coming. And we're racing, you know, I'm racing for 15th place, 16th place. And, you know, I'm racing to stay on the lead lap as well. You know, and we got, you know, just because we're not first and second or in the top 5 or the top 10, you know, we're picking on a heck of a race for 15th, 16th, 17th. You know, we're racing hard, but you know, I always make sure that I respect the leaders, and I race everybody hard. Is like they want to be raced. You know what I mean? I mean, you're going to trade paint, you're going to beat and bang, but you know, they can know that I'm going to go in the corner and I'm not going to hit them on the left rear. I'm not going to give them a dirty shot. I'm going to race them hard, but as clean as I possibly can. And I think over the years, you know, you gain that respect, and things happen. But man, I have a lot of drivers that I race with that aren't racing for the wins, that are racing hard. They always come up to me, man, Starr, we love racing with you because, man, you races hard, you know. I said, well, hell, that's what we're supposed to do. You know what I mean? We're supposed to race hard, you know, all the way back if you're racing for dead last. You know what I mean? Nobody wants to be last. You want to be, you know, want to beat 3 or 4 guys. We're all racing hard, but with respect, you know. But and I think a lot of these guys that are winning the races in the Xfinity Series and the winning championships, you know, there's, like I said, there's a lot of talent we have right now. You'll see them on the Cup Series and you know, years come being superstars there. But, you know, when a lot of these guys that are winning races, they come up to you and ask you questions, you know, it makes you feel good, you know. And they say, hey, we watched you for a long time. They're getting some advice from you. You know, that's pretty cool. That's a pretty cool deal.
Is there anyone right now, Dave, that you're watching that maybe in the Xfinity Series or Truck Series, maybe they're not in the top tier equipment right now, but you think, you know what, 5-10 years down the road, these guys are going to be something to deal with in the Cup Series each week? Is there somebody you have your eye on right now, or a couple of guys you have your eye on?
There's so many, you know. Tommy Joe Martin, you know, he's a you know, he's a hard charger in the Xfinity Series, and man, you know, everybody, you know, what people don't realize, and you know, some of my friends, and I hear people say, you know, like, you know, why does he keep out there? You know, he's always 25th, 28th, 8th. You know what people don't understand? That's the equipment he has. That's the engines he has. That's, you know, that's the best that he has under the circumstances he's under at this point in time of his career. But man, you got to stay after it. You got to race hard. The people on the inside, we know, you guys know, you know, when drivers take a 25th place truck or car and they finish 15th, you know where that's coming from. It's coming from the guy driving it. You know what I mean? And you see that there's a lot of them out there. Everybody's good. You know what I mean? It's just the team you're with, the budget you have to work on. But man, I enjoy, you know, and a lot of people know that the teams I race for, they're not winning teams, but man, let me tell you, when I show up at the racetrack, drive through the tunnel, you know, in my mindset, it's like, man, I'm coming to win that day. The reality of it is, you know, at best, if we finish, you know, in the top 10, 8th, 9th, or 10th, I'm going to pull into victory lane with the leader. You know, they're probably going to be watching, saying, man, what is this guy doing? You know what I mean? Because with the budget that we're working on, we actually won the race. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of these teams are just, you know, it's night and day difference on the budget. You know what I mean? And, you know, not only myself, but the teams that I've been involved with on the last 3 or 4 years, you know, a lot of people don't know that when we make pit stops, you know, we're not bolting on a brand new sticker, a brand new set of tires. We're bolting on a set of tires that has 20 laps on it already. You know what I mean? And I'm not just the only one. You know, you know, there's a lot of other people in that situation. But man, we're all racing hard, and I always make sure I have respect for the guys that are running for the win. Make sure you give them enough room. But you know, I had an encounter one time this past year with one of the top. I won't mention any names, but you know, I think he was running third, and I was running for the lucky dog. You know what I mean? I was racing a guy hard because I was trying to be the first one to get back on the lead lap if you're the first car down the lap. And, you know, I gave room for the leaders. First and second came by, and man, I'm racing somebody really hard. And unfortunately, the third place guy, we kind of got in his way, and sometimes you just have to make a decision, you know, what you're going to do. But, you know, we're all out there racing hard, and, you know, I figured if he was fast enough to lap us, you know, that he could figure out how to get by us. And, you know, it took him a while, and he didn't appreciate it. And after the race, he came over and we discussed it a little bit, you know, and I assured him that I saw him and I was watching him, but I was trying to make sure that I was going to stay ahead of the guy I was racing to get the lucky dog, you know. And he just said, I wouldn't have imagined that coming from somebody like yourself, And I said, well, look, anytime you want to jump in my race car and then let me jump in your race car, when you're ready to do that, I'll definitely make that exchange with you, when you're ready. And, if you would have been in my shoes and driving the car I was racing, I think you would have done the same thing. It wasn't like we wrecked the guy. We just held him up a little bit. And I actually got the lucky dog, and it all worked out. So it's kind of interesting, different people's perspective, So, yeah. So everybody's racing hard, and there's a lot of young, good talent in NASCAR and the Truck Series and the Xfinity Series. And, you see the people watching on TV doesn't always get to see, the good guys. I mean, there's a lot of hard racing going on in the back of the field where people don't get to see. And I know the guys that are really good because I know the type of equipment they have and what they're doing with it. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Absolutely, David. You mentioned earlier that the goal for everybody is to get up to the Cup Series and race in NASCAR's highest level. And I believe you attempted to get in a Cup car for the first time back in 2003 at Texas, and it wasn't until 2011 that you finally made your first official start. You qualified at Texas. Was there a sense of accomplishment of sorts, that you made it of some kind when you finally did get to make that start there in 2011 in the Levine car for there at Texas Motor Speedway?
Man, you're always thankful for the opportunities, and, Bob Levine, the news of him, I think he's been in NASCAR for 10 years now. Unfortunately, he sold his team and got out of the sport. That's something that's really new. And Christopher Bell drove for him his final year this year in 2020. But, when that situation happened, Bob Levine and another good friend of mine, Lance Fenton, they were my sponsors years ago. And they helped me race, along with so many other people and companies. They came to me one time. Lance Fenton came to me and he said, "Hey, me and Bob been talking, and we want to see you run a Cup race or two, And not only we want to see you do it, we want to own the car. You know what I mean? We want to kind of start a small Cup team." So anyway, once they did that, a lot of things transpired, but they actually came together and they built their own Cup team. It was called Levine Fenton Racing, and brought on Wally Rogers as a crew chief. And our first race week that we showed up at to attempt to qualify was the Texas Motor Speedway. And man, to make that race at my home track was really special and really cool. And we were pretty competitive. We ended up, I learned a lot about those cars quickly. We came on turn 4, and man, I was racing somebody, and I brushed the wall a little bit with the right rear tire, and it was just enough to bend the track bar. I think we bent the track bar, and we bent the right rear shock, and the car wasn't driving that great. And they said, "Hey, you need to pit." And they pitted, and they said, "Hey, we think we ought to call it a day because it's not worth it with the car that things are bent up underneath it. Jeopardize wrecking the car, hurting the car, and maybe jeopardizing one of the leaders out there." So, but we ran half the race, and man, that was really that was real cool. That was really cool. And to see what Bob Levine went on to do in his career as a NASCAR owner was really special, Yeah,
and you made 4 starts that year in the Cup Series. And when I think back to circling back is Bristol in August. That was the first time you'd run to the distance in a Cup Series race. But more importantly, you did lead 2 laps that night. Do you remember ever leading that race? I know it was during a cycle of green flag pit stops, but did you ever sit there for a second and think, wow, I'm leading a Cup race? Or did they ever relay that info to you?
It was kind of cool, just small stuff that happened, like at the driver intros, going back to our first race at Texas, I remember Jeff Gordon came over and he said, "Man, I knew you'd eventually get here, I said, "Well, man, Jeff, I appreciate that." He said, "Well, I've been watching you for a long time, and I'm surprised it took this long." And I thought that was kind of a compliment coming from Jeff Gordon, because he was a friend and just somebody I really looked up to, and I thought he had done a lot for our industry, our sport. You know, I mean, he was on Kelly and Regis. You know, he was on national. You know, he just did so much that brought so many new eyes to our sport, and you know, I really just respected Jeff Gordon, and to kind of we befriended each other, and to have him say something like that to me was really something I always kept near and dear to me, and don't talk about it much, but that was kind of a cool thing. And you mentioned the Bristol race. You know, Bristol was cool, you know, because we'd have always run strong there in the truck series. And, you know, I remember, you know, our car was really good, and I remember having a great car. You know, we usually ran the bottom middle of the racetrack, but our car on that particular day worked really good up against the wall. You know, I could really charge, drive off into the corner real good. It flowed up to the wall, and man, that thing would rotate, and I'd get back to the gas, and man, it had some good forward bite, and man, it was awesome. You know, I one of the things I remember about that race, I don't remember leading those laps, Dominic, like you were saying, but I think Tony Stewart followed me for about 50 laps. You know what I mean? A long time. And, you know, I could feel him back there. He was beating and banging on my rear bumper, but he couldn't pass me because I had the preferred line, and my car rotated well, and I could get back to the gas quicker. And, man, I'd shoot off the corner. I had really good forward bite, you know, traction off the corner. And so I held him. I don't know if I held him. That was called, it's racing to me. You know, we're racing. And I remember when the race was over with, and I felt pretty good about the race we had, and about as a new team, I thought that was a really big step with our team at the time. You know, I really thought that we all should be proud of what we accomplished. And it was like 10 minutes out I got out of the race car, I was talking to Bob Levine, and I talked to my crew chief. And then next thing I know, I turned around and Tony Stewart was right there in my face, you know. And he said, man, you know, he said, hey, Starr, we buddies and everything. But, hey, man, when I'm beating on your bumper like that, when you know that, you know, there's a faster car back there, you know, you should have kind of let me go, you know. And I said, hey, Tony, I know that. And, you know, I respect when I'm beating on somebody's bumper for 20 laps, they give me a little bit, you know what I'm saying? But I said, hey, man, you know, I apologize. I said, hey, Tony, first of all, I'm sorry I did that. But I said, man, I was excited because I was holding you off, dude. And you know what I mean? For me to be able to hold Tony Stewart off for 50 laps, you know, man, I was living it up, you know. And I was honest with him. I told him, and he said, hey, you're going to continue to race with us, you know, on this cup side, you know, you got to understand when to let people go, when to not let them go. And I said, well, I can assure you next time that you're beating and banging on my rear bumper, I'm going to give you a little bit more space than I did tonight. But, you know, I just want him to understand it was a big moment for me. And I wasn't going to just move over and let him go. I was going to hold him off as long as I could, you know. And we laugh and talk about it now, you know what I mean? But that was just a special time, you know, for us to be that competitive. Of that new of a team on the cup side, and it was really cool, you know. So that's what I really remember about racing for Bob Levine, and that Bristol Cup race was just, you know, Tony never could get by me, and I could see the frustration. I could feel the frustration in him, you know, with that rear bumper. But I wasn't about to pull over and let him go by, even though that would have been the right thing to do. You know, we were on the same lap, and we were racing for position, and just it was pretty cool.
That is too cool, David. In the 10 starts you made in the Cup Series, you got to race some of the biggest races. We mentioned the Bristol Night Race, the Brickyard 400. Your Xfinity days, you've run Daytona, Talladega, and had top 10 finishes at those places. What's it like stepping into these upper echelon of races or bigger name tracks of sorts? Your Daytonas, Talladegas, Darlingtons, you know, the Coke 600 at Charlotte, or, you know, we mentioned Brickyard 400. What does it mean for you? Is there a certain level of step up that you get when you enter some of those bigger name races or bigger known tracks of sorts?
Man, Tyler, that's a great question, and here's why. Ever since I've been a little boy, I still have the library books. I still have them in my office from the library from Stovall Junior High, or my high school days of reading about Richard Petty and A.J. Floyd and David Pearson and Darlington, South Carolina, Daytona, Talladega, Indianapolis Motor Speedway. You've read about these racetracks and how big these races are. And, I had an opportunity to run some of those races, over time when I was already established in the sport and been a NASCAR driver for a while. But, it's just something that, and personally, I don't share this with a lot of people, but, when you're on pit road or you're in the garage, you're getting ready to practice, or you're going to qualify right before the race starts, it's just, you're just so thankful, almost to bring you to tears, and it has that much meaning to it. I can assure you that, am I digging a little bit harder for that race because it is the Indianapolis Motor Speedway racetrack or the Brickyard 400? I can assure you not, because, man, anytime I jump in a race car, man, I'm giving it all I got. And just because it's Darlington or Daytona or the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, I'm not going to say that there's a little bit more I left on the table or had. I mean, I give it all I got every time I get in a race car. But man, just the self, like I said, it's hard. It's like a tennis player. You grow up as a kid and that's the sport you love. Your dad was involved. Your mom and dad played it. This is something that you just dreamed of, and you practice, you go through school, college, and you're playing select tennis. But, man, when you finally make it, and, man, one day you find yourself playing at Wimbledon, you know what I mean? People that, you don't even have to win Wimbledon, but you're there competing. You know what I mean? It's just, golly, there's so much meaning for you. It's just hard to describe it. You know what I mean? What your personal, what it means. I can assure you that it means everything to me. I don't really ever, talk about what it means, but I can assure you it's really, really, really special.
Yeah, well, and just from a journalist standpoint, Dominic and I, when we've covered these big races, we've kind of felt that same sense of arrival that we're here. It's pretty special, to say the least. So I totally get where you're coming from. Dominic, let's talk sim racing, shall we?
Sure. Well, before we talk some sim racing, I just got to add on to that. I know what you guys mean, because like going to the Daytona 500 or just going to any race in general, NASCAR is not big here in the state of New Mexico. So it's awesome. I feel like I'm representing or having New Mexico on the stage there, because there's not a lot of people from our state that do go to the races, and there's not a lot of competitors from here. So it's something I take a lot of pride in, and the guys from ESPN Radio Albuquerque, when they work with us and when they go to the track, I know they take a lot of pride in that too. Like, hey, we're the only guys from New Mexico here. But yeah, there's that pride that comes with being from the land of enchantment, for sure. And David kind of touched on some stuff from earlier this year, and when we had the pandemic and the 2-month break with NASCAR, we saw a lot of the guys hop on iRacing and do some of these pro invitational races and do the things through the iRacing platform. Is that something that you've ever had interest in doing, or hopping on to do a virtual race car?
Man, not really. When I was a kid, and I remember at the roller skating rink they had a race car game, and man, golly, I think I stayed on that the whole time the skating rink was open, you know what I mean? And fed it a lot of quarters. And I was really good, but, sometimes I'd have an audience, people watching me. And, when the skating rink had a all-night skate, they had a pinball competition, a foosball tournament. They had that race car tournament, and I would win it every year. But, the sim racing, I want to say I believe I'm kind of old school, you know what I mean? Because, I just think about how cool that is, that there's, the sim racing, how big it is and how big it's gotten, I look back years past, I remember Timmy Hill coming up to me at a racetrack, and he said, "Hey, David, you ought to jump on and race with us on a Tuesday or Wednesday night," And I remember telling Timmy Hill, it's like, "Man, Timmy, I don't have time for that, man. I'm working on our race cars at our racing school, and maybe I'm doing something for one of my sponsors." But I never really got involved with racing on a computer. You know what I'm saying? I just something I never really had any interest in or knew anything about. But man, during the pandemic, like you were saying, Dominic, man, I was so entertained. I was so entertained by sim racing. It was on NBC. Our NASCAR superstars were racing. I thought it was pretty cool. But I just think it's just pretty awesome. But I had a lot of people texting me and calling me and say, "Hey man, why ain't you one of the guys racing?" And and what I would tell them was, I mean, do you think I'm just going to go get a simulator and just plug into iRacing and think I'm going to beat these guys? I mean, Timmy Hill been doing this for years, you know what I mean? And, it looks cool and I'm watching it on TV, but it's harder than it looks, you know what I mean? And then, y'all seen what I seen, and then they started bringing in Clint Boyer and Jeff Gordon. I was like, man, I was so entertained by Clint, and I'm thinking, hell, that's me right there. You know what I mean? Hell, he wasn't very good at it. That's me. You know what I mean? So anyway, I just thought it was awesome that NASCAR, NBC, Fox, whoever it was, and all the drivers, I don't know. I was really looking forward to each week after they put that on television. I thought it was the coolest thing. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Well, and the speculation is out there, David, that with more one-day shows continuing to happen and the networks looking to fill the time from practice and qualifying sessions, that they're talking about working with iRacing to do some sim racing to air on the networks and what would normally be those practice and qualifying sessions. Maybe some races, maybe run a practice or qualifying session of some sorts on the iRacing. What do you think about that? Do you think it could be a legit substitute for practice and qualifying?
I don't really know. It would be something that remains to be seen. During the pandemic and, when there was no sports going on, I thought it was pretty cool to really put our industry and our sport of NASCAR racing in the spotlight, because there was nothing going on. And I thought that was a beautiful thing. I was proud of NASCAR, and I was proud of the drivers that were participating in it. And the way I look at the sim racing today is, I'm always, being from Houston, Texas, there's a short track there, Houston Motorsports Park. Gina Shald's doing a great job promoting the racetrack. And I'm always, even when I get done racing, no matter where I'm at in the country, I'm looking for a dirt track. I'm looking for a short track, asphalt track somewhere. I love to go to the local races and to see what's going on and how many new people, how many kids are out there racing, how many car count. Because I always look at, you gotta feed NASCAR. The talent comes from the local dirt tracks. It comes from the local asphalt racetracks. And, sometimes I'm concerned because I hear more about these short tracks around the country. Even the racetracks I grew up racing in Oklahoma and Texas, I want to say over 60% of them are gone today. You know what I mean? That's concerning to me. And when I saw the iRacing on television, I had a lot of stuff going on in my head, what I thought about it. And one of the things I thought about was, man, what a way to show young kids, hey man, get on iRacing and compete against each other. People from all over the world can jump on that race against each other. But I think that's cool. And when you're really good at it, and you love it that much and you're passionate about it, maybe that 10-year-old kid or that 14-year-old kid will say, man, Dad or Mom, I want to go to a real NASCAR race. I want to go to a local short track. I want to go, it's kind of a way to bring in new people, to expose them into our sport and to have the future of, future racers. Maybe it drives a 12-year-old girl or a 14-year-old kid to the local dirt track, gets them involved, and next thing you know, you see them doing really well, and they climb the ladder. Next thing you know, they're in NASCAR. So I think not only sim racing, I know it entertained a lot of people because it entertained me, but I think the bigger picture is it's kind of an avenue to expose our sport, whether you make it to NASCAR, IndyCar racing or not. But I think it brings kids to a local racetrack in whatever part of the country they live in. So I think that part of it's awesome. You know what I mean? And so I think everything we're talking about sim racing, even though I don't personally do it, I think everything about it is a positive, great thing.
I think you're absolutely right, Dave. And I think with what Tyler's talking about too, how next year might be more of a staple, something we see on NBC Sports Network or Fox Sports 1. And if they're expecting some of the drivers in the Xfinity and Truck Series to be a part of these races midweek, it sounds like we're going to have to get you trained up on doing some of these sim races.
Absolutely. There's a local racer down in Houston, Texas named Ryan Luza. And, I didn't know this, but I was down there watching him race not that long ago. And his cousin Eddie Luza's a friend of mine, and Eddie said, "Hey man, Ryan's racing tonight. I race, and if he wins $100,000." I said, "How much?" He said, "If he wins, he wins $100,000." I'm like, I couldn't believe that Eddie was telling me this. You know what I mean? So these iRacers that are really good and they have been doing it a long time, these guys are really, really good at iRacing. And Ryan Luza is a really great race car driver, a real race car driver. And he's a really great, one of the stars in this iRacing deal. And I had no idea that iRacing, that if you won the championship, there was that kind of money involved. So, man, you're talking about this sim iRacing stuff. It's big, you know what I mean? And I wouldn't be surprised, Dominic, to if you saw the iRacing, like you said, to kind of cover up for maybe not having qualifying and not having practice. So it's a lot that remains to be seen. So yeah, we'll see what the future holds. But I think everything that I know about iRacing is a great thing for the industry.
Well, Dominic's already got you a David Starr podcast card designed and everything ready for you when you're ready to do some iRacing. We'll definitely have that set and good to go.
I know one thing, Clint Boyer entertained the heck out of me, man. I laughed and laughed. It was, man, unbelievable. You know what I mean? Heck,
he got a job out of it, pretty much.
Well, absolutely. And the drivers were getting mad at each other. It was real. You know what I mean? It was pretty cool.
It was, yeah, Dave. If you're ready to take that plunge, we'll help you get trained up. I do run not in an iRacing league, but in its predecessor, NASCAR Racing 2003 season, in Ryan Lusk's BRL league. So he told me to give you a personal invite. We'll get you trained up for the iRacing stuff.
There we go, man. We can all do it. There you go.
Hey, there we go. I'll jump in too. We'll all race against each other. David, a couple more things before we get out of here today. Time for our NASCAR news and notes. Dominic, what do we got this week?
So every week on this podcast, we break down some of the top headlines around the sport and around our industry. One of the top headlines, Noah Gragson will be attempting the Daytona 500 come 2021. Gragson will be attempting to make the Beard Motorsports entry into the Daytona 500, attempting for his first Cup Series race alongside Chase Briscoe. Gragson replaces Brendan Gaughan, who had been running for that team for the last few seasons. If he's able to make the race, that'll be, again, two drivers, him and Chase Briscoe, making their Cup Series debut in NASCAR's biggest race.
Let me ask you real quick before David jumps in. Is Hendrick going to back him on that, or is it just the equipment of that team?
So I don't recall for sure, but I know in the past that team has had some Richard Childress backing with engines. I know Brendan Gaughan was able to leverage his relationship with RC on being able to get some decent equipment. So that I don't know. That's a really good question.
What do you think, David?
Well, I'm excited. That's a good opportunity for Noah Gragson because, my buddy Brendan Gaughan, who hopefully is going to be one of our guests here real soon on our podcast here. Man, Brendan, he was so entertaining in that car. I mean, you guys remember, he had a shot at winning the Daytona race, not Daytona, Talladega. And when I would watch him, because he's a personal friend, that Beard Motorsports race car, they would run those super speedways. And, man, I was always watching Brendan because he's a great race car driver. And, man, I'm like, man, he's gonna pull off an upset here. I really thought, watching him in some of these super speedway races, that he had a shot at winning, and you guys saw him. I think Brad Keselowski was pushing him down the back straightaway, and I think at the time that he flipped with only a lap or two remaining, that Brad was pushing him to the lead. So I think that's a great opportunity for Noah Gragson, and I think that car is going to be fast. I think they're going to do well.
Oh yeah, I mean. Brendan, he's the reason why we know all about the South Point Casino in Vegas. I mean, so, we'll definitely have to hit that up one of these days. But excited for Noah to get that chance. What else we got, Dom?
I will say they have a great bowling alley there. I took my fiancée, Kim, a couple of years ago. We ended up going to the bowling alley. We had a really good time there at the South Point. So, yeah, a lot of fun there. But how much does your favorite NASCAR driver make? According to the website, Mark, go watch, they released the top 5 earners for the NASCAR 2020 Cup Series season. Martin Truex Jr. earned a combined $11.5 million in earnings this last year. Kevin Harvick, 4th at $12.2 million. Denny Hamlin, 3rd most with $14.6 million. Jimmy Johnson, $17.6 million combined earnings. And Kyle Busch earned the most with $17.8 million. So again, this is according to GoBankingRates.com, ranking the 5 highest earning drivers in the NASCAR Cup Series, active drivers, that is.
David, is that kind of the numbers you thought they'd be?
Man, that's impressive, man. Wow, that's impressive. That says a lot about our sport, NASCAR and our sponsors. You know what I mean? And man, that's wow. That's impressive. The only thing I'm disappointed with that list is I'm not anywhere close to it. But that's about right. With those top guys. You're talking merchandise. Our sport with the following and the fans and the merchandises and race winnings and the endorsements. I'm proud to hear those numbers, you know what I mean? Because that's really that's pretty strong for those top 5 guys, and that's pretty awesome.
Some other NASCAR headlines too from this past week. We might have another rookie running for Rookie of the Year in the Cup Series. According to Adam Stern of the Sports Business Journal, Anthony Alfredo is in talks with Front Row Motorsports to try and possibly fill the vacant seat in the number 38 car. If he is chosen for the ride, he would be replacing John Hunter Nemechek, who moved down to the NASCAR Truck Series for 2021 to run with Kyle Busch Motorsports. Alfredo ran some races for Richard Childress Racing in 2020 in the Xfinity Series, posting 9 top 10 finishes in 19 races.
David, what do you think about Alfredo potentially going full-time in Cup with Front Row?
I think for him, that's a good opportunity. Front Row Motorsports, John Hunter Nemechek, man, he was impressive. I was impressed with him this year. He had some great runs, and if you paid attention to him, I remember Kansas City. He was running in the top 10 a lot of the race, and I just think having a teammate like Michael McDowell. And, and how good that team's ran and to see what John Hunter Nemechek did this year in that car, I think that's a huge opportunity, you know what I mean? And, hopefully that works out for him. And, whoever gets that ride that's a good opportunity there. And hopefully it all works out for him.
Yeah, certainly so. Dom, I believe we have one more.
One more news and notes headline from this past week. the money team is potentially one step closer to hitting the track in 2021. That's the team that is co-owned by Floyd Mayweather. They are in advanced talks, according to, again, Adam Stern, the Sports Business Journal, on forming a new partnership with Starr Motorsports that would potentially help pave its way and make their debut in NASCAR's Top Series in 2021. This is a team that has been talked about over the last couple of years. There's been some renderings out showing that they could take the number 50 car in the Cup Series. No driver has been announced. Nothing else has been said on this. Again, speculation at this time, but if Adam Stern is reporting on it, 99 out of 100 times, it is correct.
Yeah. And David, we already know about Michael Jordan being an owner this upcoming year. That'd be big to have Floyd Mayweather, another big-time sports figure involved in the NASCAR community.
That's really cool. Having, obviously Michael Jordan and, to come into our sport with Denny Hamlin, to have a team like they're going to have, and have Mayweather, Floyd come, talk about, I've heard these rumors, but, it just says a lot about our sport, that other superstars from other, sports want to be part of our industry, you know what I mean? And I just think it's good for all of us that are involved. You know what I mean? It just lets everyone know the health of our sport is doing well, and these superstars, again, of these other major sports want to be part of our NASCAR racing. So I think everything is wonderful about it, and I think it's good. And I got my fingers crossed that it works out for them. You know what I mean? I think that'd be a great partnership.
Yeah, that'd be great to see.
And I think it would also bring, bring new eyes to our industry, new people watching, you know what I mean? So I think having Michael Jordan as an owner is really going to really grow our sport, And what do you mean by grow it? Because it's already massive and has a big following. But, I think we'll see a lot of lifetime NBA fans, that really focus on NASCAR now because of what Michael Jordan's doing in our industry. So I think everything about these stars wanting to be owners in our industry, I think everything about it's a great thing for all of us.
Oh yeah, I mean Brad Daugherty's been great for the sport for a long time now as a former NBAer, and you raced for Randy Moss in the Truck Series, so. The more the merrier. That's great to see. So, David, before we get out of here today, time for our final segment, Ask David, where you submit questions to us on Facebook, Twitter, and also in the email inbox at starrpodcast@gmail.com is where you can send us some mail there. And our first question, it comes from Troy. And Troy says, you mentioned earlier, David, about that back in the day at the roller rink that you played the NASCAR video game and such. Well, Troy wants to know, do you still go roller skating? I bet you know who's asking this, LOL.
That's awesome, man. That's a great question, man, for most people that don't know, when I was a little kid growing up, everybody goes to the roller skating rink, and I think I might have been 5, 6, 7 years old, but it's pretty bad when the people that own the roller skating rink tell your parents, "Hey, don't bring this kid back anymore because he's terrible." I was fast skating, knocking people down, and getting into fights. You know what I mean? And so they kicked me out. Couldn't. I don't remember how long it was, but when they finally allowed me to come back to the skating rink, and next thing you know, I'm back to my same, problems. When the owners of the skating rink called my parents again to come get me, they said, y'all should consider putting David into speed skating. You know what I mean? He has a lot of energy. And so they did. That's how I burned off a lot of energy as a kid. I speed skated, and I got pretty good at it. And man, I raced all over the United States. speed skating. It's, you had relays and individually, and it's kind of like NASCAR racing. You're racing against everybody, and I got pretty good at it, and won nationals, won regionals, and I got invited to the Olympic Training Center to train to go over and race for the United States in the Pan America Games years ago, and which didn't work out. Unfortunately, they kicked me out of roller skating because I was already racing dirt cars, and that's another story for another podcast. But anyway, do I go roller skating? In fact, a good friend of mine who's actually one of our sponsors, Belknap Plumbing and Concrete Services, Kim Belknap used to skate with me when I was a young kid, and we talk about it a lot. And here about 3 weeks ago, I took my boys roller skating, you know what I mean? And it's a lot of fun, but man, you're talking about a great workout. And, everybody talks about Morgan Shepherd. Sometimes you see Morgan break out his roller skates at the racetrack, and I'm thinking in the back of my head, if these people only knew that I'm a champion speed skater, they'd probably give me a hard time. But when I see Morgan roller skating over the years, I would always kind of chuckle in the back of my, laugh at myself because, I really wanted to be out there, have my skates too, and go out there and skate with him. But yes, I still, I go every once in a while, and my kids love it, so it's kind of fun.
That did not go where I expected it to.
Same.
I about David today. I'm not much of a roller skater myself. Dominic, are you a roller skater?
No, I could probably pick it up if I really tried, but I'd probably fall on my butt like a good 200 times before I mastered it. Not even mastered, just get the hang of it.
Man, we went over. My parents, we went, and kind of, the hub of NASCAR racing is, Charlotte, North Carolina, and we used to go to High Point, North Carolina, and I remember when I would go over that part of the country, I was always thinking, man, I want to go to Richard Petty's shop, you know what I mean?
Right. Because
I knew Level Cross was not too far from High Point, but, that part of the region, years ago when I was a kid, roller skating was a big deal in that part of the region. They had a lot of really talented, fast guys from that part of the country, but we skated all the way from California to North Carolina, speed skating. It was amazing, and it's kind of cool. Some of the people that I skated with over the years, transitioned over to ice skating and actually made it to the, skated for the USA Olympic team. Chad Hedrick, ones that comes to mind. And, but, it was a great time. It was competition, a lot of things I did, me and my brothers, obviously we played all kinds of sports, but, racing and competing against others was just something that was just kind of built into us, and I raced on skates. It was cool as a kid,
That's great. One more for you. This one's from Kenny. Kenny writes, ever think about coming to Pennsylvania to shake down a Northeast modified?
Man, that's that's probably that's probably Kenny Brock, a friend of mine.
Yes, it is, by the way.
Yeah, he's a great race car driver. He races those Northeast modifieds, and I'm a big fan of his. And actually, when I was up in Reading, Pennsylvania, a year and a half ago, visiting Missy and Rich Fix, another sponsor of ours, they were friends with Kenny, and they took me over to his race shop and got to check out his race car. But man, when I sit in those race cars, those Northeast modifieds, man, you're sitting way up high. It's open wheel. It's so different from what I'm used to racing and what I grew up racing. You know what I mean? So Kenny is really a great racer, and all the people that he races against in that series up there in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, those guys, I mean, you look at Stuart Friesen, Kenny Brock, you look at all those guys are good. They do that. A lot of them do it full time. They make a living at it. You know what I mean? And I can't wait for the opportunity of to jump in one of those race cars just to kind of see what it's like. But man, it's way different from what I'm used to, you know. And man, those race cars, there's some serious machines, and man, they got those big blocks in them, and God, they're fast, man. They're fast, and they put on one heck of a show, you know. And I can't wait to jump in and maybe drive Kenny's one night, practice in it. You know, I'm afraid if I jump into Kenny's, and next thing you know, I'm going to own one or going to be up there in that part of the country trying to race more often. You know what I mean? But Kenny, I'm coming, buddy. I want to practice your car sometime.
Dominic, have you ever hopped in a modified?
I never have, actually. The most I've ever done as far as anything real, some go-karts, done some GoPro Motorplex stuff and some go-kart stuff in Albuquerque. That's about it. Maybe someday. I haven't ruled out trying to get behind the wheel of something here at the local racetrack. And a colleague of mine, I know he's listening, Rio Thompson, he's actually the head football coach. He and I have talked about trying to build a car next year when the pandemic dies down. So maybe we'll hop behind the wheel and kind of go for the owner's championship and get behind the wheel for both of us.
That's great to see. I know people that race modifieds, but I've never done it myself. I'd love to have the opportunity to do so. Guys, we got to run. That's episode 5 of Let's Go Racing with David Starr in the books. We are 1 month into this show, guys. It's been a lot of fun doing this each and every week. And a reminder, as always, you can subscribe to Let's Go Racing on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, also on YouTube. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review. We certainly would appreciate that. On social media, Facebook.com, David Starr Podcast, Twitter, Starr Podcast, and on email, you can write to us at starrpodcast@gmail.com. Dominic, what's on the racing experts this week?
We'll continue to cover the daily happenings of our sport, and we say it every week. Follow us on Twitter. We do a lot of giveaways with some autographed memorabilia and some race used materials. So if you like to win some NASCAR race used material and autographs and anything that you can think of around the sport, we're your go-to place. All you got to do is just follow and play by the rules.
We begin a new year later this week, and for you, this is when it really gets down to crunch time. We're counting down the days to Daytona now, huh?
Yeah, no doubt about it. You know, I was on the phone all day today with some of my sponsors and talking to some new companies and, you know, trying to get in touch with some companies and some people. You know, right now, after Christmas is over with and until, you know, New Year's, you know, a lot of people aren't working right now. You know what I mean? So it's kind of, you know, I got to have couple meetings tomorrow. And, man, it's I love Christmas and enjoyed Christmas. And, man, this morning, man, I was up bright and early and on the phone and, you know, just trying to just to get with our sponsors. And, you know, we want to have some news to release here in the next 3, 4, 5 weeks and what our season looks like in 2021. And, you know, I hope all our listeners, first of all, thank you for spending time listening to us talk about what we guys love. And I know if you're listening to our podcast, you love racing as much as we do. And I want to thank you for listening to us. You know, I'm honored that somebody would you know, get on our podcast and listen to us. So thank you. I hope everybody had a Merry Christmas. And I know we're all looking forward to 2021. You know, I don't think there's ever been a year where that we're all going to celebrate is best and to be excited to see a year move on to 2021. So I hope everybody has a happy new year, and I'm looking forward to good things for everybody in 2021.
No doubt about it. We will put the checkered flag out on 2020. Appreciate everybody for stopping in and joining us on another edition of Let's Go Racing with David Starr. For Dominic Aragon and David Starr, I'm Tyler Jones saying so long. We'll see you next year here on Let's Go Racing.